porch. The season was taking a toll on all of us, as it usually did, but I told Ruby to send the woman in. I glanced down at my book and read the line, "No space of regret can make amends for one life's opportunity misused." I patted my ancient copy of A Christmas Carol and stood to accept the visitor. A dark-haired woman dressed in jeans and a long, elegant black wool coat stood in the doorway. She was clutching a garment bag and smiling a nervous smile, and was small and delicately boned, with pale skin and what looked like a hairline crack in the porcelain of her forehead, almost as if she'd been made of china and at one point dropped. "Please come in," she nodded, stepping through the doorway, and studied Dog, who rose, stretched, and yawned. "Won't you have a seat?" Her hand rested on Dog's head as he sniffed her. I didn't have a lot of time and figured that since it was Christmas Eve, she didn't either. "How can I help you?" "Are you the sheriff of Absaroka County?" "I am." I spun my hat, which, when not on my head, was in its usual spot on the edge of my desk. "And you are?" She glanced around my office, her eyes lighting on the Dickens. "You haven't finished that book yet?" An odd question, but evidently she didn't want to give out with her name. I glanced down at the small hand-bound copy with the gilt lettering. A Christmas gift from my father to me when I was 15, and he thought I needed to understand the goodness of charity and humility. Holiday reading, a tradition of mine. "I know." I thought I could discern a slight whistling noise within her voice as she spoke. I stepped around my desk and extended a hand. "I'm sorry, but have we met?" The smile returned, but her hands still clutched the garment bag's black vinyl like talons on a branch. I noticed it had the name of a San Francisco dry cleaning service with an address at Taylor and Clay printed on the front. "You don't remember me?" The whistling was there again, as if some wind from another time and place punctuated her speech. Studying her face, I could see something familiar there, something from a while back, maybe, but nothing I could really identify. "I'm sorry, but not really." She looked at her feet, a small puddle of melted slush from her shoes surrounding them, and then back to me. "How long have you been the sheriff?" It was an odd question from someone who purported to know me. "Almost a quarter-century." "Who was the sheriff before you?" Still feeling as if I should recognize her, I answered, "A man by the name of Lucian Connally." I watched her face, but there was no recognition there. "Do you mind telling me what this is all about, ma'am?" "Is he around?" I smiled. No." "Do you have a photograph of him that I could see, please?" I stood there looking down at her, and stuffed my hands in the pockets of my jeans. There weren't any warning bells going off in my head, but the fact that she hadn't given me her name or a specific reason why she was here was keeping me off balance. I didn't move at first, but then stepped past her toward the doorway. Dog padded after me, its claws making clacking sounds on the wide wood-planked floor of the old Carnegie Library that served as our office. I motioned for her to accompany us. Ruby watched as we walked past the painting of Andrew Carnegie himself to the marble landing. I took 3 steps down and turned so that I could look straight at the young woman who had maintained a 2-foot distance behind me, gesturing toward the wall where the 8x10s of all the sheriffs of the county since its inception in 1894 hung diagonally in a rogues gallery. Mine was last, with a chocolate-brown hat and the ridiculous mustache and sideburns I had in the 80s when I'd first been elected. The photo was a color monstrosity that looked garish and déclassé next to Lucian's classic black and white. His had been taken in the late 40s, a few years after the war. The good one, if there was such a thing. It was right before he lost his leg to Basque bootleggers, and he wore his traditional light-colored open-road Stetson, a dark tie, and an old Eisenhower jacket, star attached. He was looking straight at the camera with an elbow resting on a raised knee,